Why do you make art?
I think it just is. Like, I don't really know. It's like, why is your hair brown? You know, it's just like, it just is.
Fair yeah.
I think it's
just feel like it, basically.
I mean, I think it's more than that, because if I don't make art, I don't feel okay. And I'm not okay.
It feels like a part of yourself then, essentially.
Definitely. I think it's the biggest gift of life, to have a place to express the deepest part of you and the deepest part of your wondering and your story of being a human being. I feel like if I didn't have a conduit to do that, I would not understand what I was doing here.
What draws you to doll making?
I grew up in a house full of figurative sculptures, and when I was a very young child, I made dolls. And then as the years went on, I forgot about that and went to art school and did mostly 2D work. But I always loved the figure and figure drawing. But it wasn't until my mid-20s that I had that little aha moment of like, oh, it wasn't painting and drawing that I did as a kid, I made dolls. And I started making dolls again, and for quite some time I made children's toys. And then it sort of springboarded off from there to making more fine art. I think I love miniatures, I love dolls. I had a very deep connection to a doll as a child that my grandmother lovingly made a beautiful wardrobe for, and my father had made me a beautiful large dollhouse, and I think those two toys were just a very important avenue I had as a kid to just go into my own world.
How do you know that a doll you are making is complete? Do you know?
I do know, and it's an interesting process, and there's definitely, I always say that I need to have the land of the misfit dolls in my studio, because there are always dolls that sometimes have to sit around for quite a long time before they're finished. And I mean, I'm even talking years. So sometimes I'll make the figure and then I just can't seem to find a home for it. I'll try putting it in all different kinds of things that I'm built for it, and it just doesn't work.
That's interesting.
Right? And sometimes it never works, or and I take it apart,
or find a home for it.
Yep. Or sometimes it happens like instantaneously. So it's really all different. I think it's when you make art, when you're done, you know.
When you ever find a home for a doll, do you ever at some point decide maybe I could find a different home that's better for this doll?
Totally. That's awesome. A great question. Yes.
Awesome. It's a constant process of just moving stuff around and trying to find what fits best where.
Absolutely.
That's really cool.
Absolutely. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Do you start with an idea or theme that you want to express, or does the essence of what you are making become apparent as you are working?
It's definitely both. I used to work only intuitively, and now it's a combination of both. I have, as part of saying to myself, yes, I'm an artist and I know I'm an artist, I have a whole notebook of my ideas, and I don't just ignore the ideas that come to me or think that they're not valuable. I do value them now, and I make very specific plans of pieces that I'd like to make, and a lot of them come to fruition and are very similar to that original idea. Sometimes along the way, the work takes a turn and takes a life of its own, and I always want to be open to that process, because I feel like that's a huge part of the magic of making art.
So, if your vision changes while you're working on a project, you realize I could maybe deviate from the original plan and make it like better somehow, essentially.
It's that, or a lot of times that original project will come to fruition, but sometimes the figure that I'm making that I thought was going to be for that process, sometimes other things come out in that process, and they're just, the original thing will get made, but also other surprises happen along the way.
That give you new ideas.
Yeah, that turn into different pieces that I wasn't planning on.
What draws you to fairy tales and archetypal imagery?
At the baseline, my work is trying to express just this weird thing that we're all going through of being human on Earth, being in a body, going through trials and tribulations, having things that we need to unlearn and things that we need to learn. And I think that the fairy tale completely mirrors that truth and is again and again the story of becoming. And I think that's basically what I'm trying to say in my artwork, is to express the story of my becoming, of becoming individuated, of becoming more of my true self, and letting go of things I've been taught that are really not my truth, things that society puts on us. And again I see it being told in a fairy tale. So sometimes it feels like you have to be lost in the forest for a long time before you find your way, or sometimes it feels like you have to fall down a well and maybe die and be reborn in some way to figure out more of who you are. And for some reason those images really speak to me.
Don't miss the opening of Rebecca Schwarzberg and Veronique Cote's exhibit on Friday, September 2nd at 3 p.m.